All right. Dani, Toni, and Yngvild, welcome to the Running Long podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's special and it's pretty amazing to see you all together. So I guess to start, just where are you and what are you up to?
You wanna go?
Don't be shy.
Yeah. We are in Auburn, California. We're here for our extended training camp / ghost race, where we are basically doing a course recce for Western States, and just training, having a good, fun time together. 3 hours. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're definitely in one of the capitals of our sport. Auburn, for those who don't know, is where Western State finishes. The high school track in Auburn is pretty special. So I hope you've got a chance to run a few strides there. Besides, of course, the Western State Trails. And actually, Canyons is gonna happen pretty soon, I think. Is anyone of you running at Canyons?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll be doing Canyons 50K.
So this is Dani for those who are
Oh
not
yeah, this
watching.
is Danny. And yeah, that's the American major,
Yep.
UTMB World Series. And so yeah, there'll be some really good competition there, which I'm excited about.
Nice, nice. So just to start, how does the idea of the training camp came about and just how is it going?
Well, I guess it all centered around Yngvild. She's racing Western States this year, and Dani and I are going to be her pacers. So, building on from the Terrex team camp, which we've just done, where we were at the Adidas headquarters, and then we went to Fuerteventura, which is one of the Canary Islands, just off of, Spanish islands. So we kind of decided that it was going to be a really cool time to come and check out the route, to do that with Yngvild and like learn what she wants as well for the pacing, and for us to see the route as well. For me, it's just a really great volume camp. It just felt like a really great extension of something that we were already doing. So yeah, coming here made a whole bunch of sense. For so many reasons. And I think it's been really successful so far. We've seen Yngvild, you've seen about 50 miles of the route. So we've seen a lot of the Western States route. We've now recce'd the paper routes. So I think we're pretty well set for Western States. And I think it's also, given us a really good platform to build for the rest of the year too.
Yeah, sweet. I mean, you and Dani have got a relatively easy job and Yngvild has got a hard job, I guess.
But
but it's pretty cool.
That's the plan.
Is it already possible to run in the first section of the race, like near Lake Tahoe, or is it too much snowy?
Yeah, too much snow. They've gotten some late season snow too.
Mhm.
So we were expecting to even maybe see more than we are seeing right now. But I mean, having been to the race a couple of years, the sections that we have been able to preview, I think, are some of the most critical sections of the course. So in that case, I think it's still like a huge success.
Yeah. Sweet. And does it make you want to run Western States one day for you and Toni?
Not yet.
Okay.
Fair. We've said it a couple times, and Yngvild said it a couple times. Seeing the route makes it feel very long. But no, I think I'm really excited to see the race itself and to be a part of that. I think potentially then I might be more inspired to do it. But for now, I would love to come back and run canyons, for example, because the trails here are really, really incredible. Completely blew my mind. Like I was not expecting it. So yeah, totally in love with the area and the trails here, but maybe not so much 100 miles yet.
What about you, Dani?
Yes, I'm definitely enamored with it. I love these types of trails, and I think it's I mean, they're the type of trails that I learned about trail running. And yeah, having been to the race a couple of years, the magic is it's its own unique magic. And then now getting to help Yngvild in her journey too, it's just making me want to do it more. So maybe next year I'll be pursuing it as well.
Sweet. Yeah, I think the vibes are pretty special, and just being there, you know, on the course and some of the most legendary and inspiring trails of our sport is great. Um, Yngvild, how do you feel about, I think it's your first 100 miler, if I'm not wrong. I mean, you've run, of course, 100Ks, you won CCC last year, obviously. But how do you feel about this jump?
Yeah, it's my first 100 miler.
Yeah.
And I've always thought my first 100 miler would be Western States. I'm really happy to have this as my debut. Also, I'm kind of terrified because just seeing the course here make me realize how long we're actually running.
Yeah.
But it's super valuable to have seen so much of the course already, and it was not as expected at all. I was expecting more wider dirt roads, but there are so many beautiful single tracks, snorkeling single tracks, beautiful views, a lot of forest. Yeah, so I just really enjoyed the park so far, and yeah, super valuable to have seen so much of the course already.
Yeah, of course. I think it's pretty crucial that you do a really good race recognition and training on like not just a recognition, but like actual trainings and sessions on the course. Is it really as fast as many people describe it? Like you mentioned, it's a lot less dirt roads and fire roads and maybe more single tracks than you thought. I also think you are like you enjoy running on flat, like you've ran road marathons, you've won a marathon last year in 2:38. Do you like that? Do you like the fact that it's considered a relatively fast race? Of course, being 100 miler.
Yeah, so I like that it's runnable. And definitely it's a fast race, I would say. And also it's a lot downhill running, which makes it faster. But yeah, like you said, I've done a couple of road races. I like to run also flat running. It's kind of my running style, I would say, to do more runnable races. So that's one reason why I also wanted to run Western States, because I felt like it fitted my running style and the type of races I liked, which changed a bit last year after doing some more technical races, but it's still...
Yeah, you did Tromsø last year, right?
Yeah, and that was
It's like some of the most technical trails.
Yeah.
I mean, it was special because it was the last edition of the Tromsø Sky Race, I guess.
That's why
But it's like you went from the easiest trails to like the hardest.
Well, it's just typical me. I'm just all over the place.
That's good. Yeah. Always challenging yourself.
Yeah, it was hometown. I never raced it before. It was the last edition. I wanted to try something new, so I just decided to go for it. And I think that was one of the best races I've done. Like, it was so fun, such a nice race. So it's sad that it was the last edition.
Yeah. So I guess that is encouraging me to sign up for a sky race. Like I don't necessarily enjoy running on very technical terrain, especially during races, because like you have to, you know, take some risks, and yeah, it's not easy. I enjoyed it in training because I can take my time and just walk and, you know, scramble. But you can't really do that in races if you want to be competitive, but it's always good learning.
I also think that also Tromsø Sky Race and Western States is kind of a challenge. Like with Tromsø, it was the technical part, a lot of uphill scrambling, and for Western States, it's a long race, but it's also the heat. And it's fun to have this goal, this race, that you need to prepare something to overcome a challenge to do the race, and see if you can take that challenge or not. So it's definitely fun to have a race where it's kind of like a journey going into the race, and doing something you know that you're not really good at, and doing something that you trying to improve specifically, which makes it really fun.
Yeah, interesting. And putting into perspective Courtney's time from last year, of course, the Western State record. How does it make you feel? Like, how does that performance make you feel?
Well,
Now that
Courtney
you've
is-
seen the course, it's a 100-miler. Obviously, you haven't seen everything, but it's like 15 hours 30 something, if I remember. How does that make you feel?
I don't
think she ran
remember.
something.
But yeah, Courtney is just outstanding, and
Yeah.
he's really good at his course. It's difficult to compare. Like, you should be careful comparing too much, because they've done some changes in the course, like, and also the weather and the heat that they big difference.
Yeah,
So
good point.
yeah, so I'm trying to not compare too much, but obviously, like, it's a reminder that it's a fast race, and that it's runnable, and it kind of shows how fast it really is, and that it's possible to run this race really fast, compared to other 100-miler races.
I think what's been so interesting is like looking at the average pace of the finishing times, and then comparing that to like, our training runs, and being like, holy shit, they ran this pace. Sorry, I swore. They ran this pace for 100 miles.
Yeah.
And like, it's the pace that we're running on our training run. So that, I think, has been quite eye-opening for me personally, just because, you see 15 hours for 100 miles and you go, wow, that's impressive. But then to actually run the pace that they've had to run and sustain that for 100 miles, it just makes it so much more impressive what these people are doing. Like, I have so much respect for all of these athletes who finish in such amazing times. Like, being here and running these trails has really opened my eyes to actually how incredible these performances are. So yeah, it's been cool to be on like the trails and to see that.
And I mean, we've just been running a teeny tiny part of the course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super interesting. And how have you structured this training camp? Like, do you do everything together in terms of training, or do each one of you have their own training schedule? Or like, I guess I imagine you try to share most of your runs, but maybe like each one of you has a slightly different plan. How does that all work?
When we were in Herzo and Fuerte, Herzo was kind of, everyone was doing their own thing because we were there for such a short amount of time. And then in Fuerteventura, we had a plan that you could choose to join the sessions or not join the sessions. And I would say more times than not, like 70–80% of the team would join the sessions. It wouldn't always be the same people, just depending on the length of the session, intensity, etc. And then while we've been here, so, we've mostly been doing it all together, maybe one day not together. But the goal for all of us kind of in unison has been big volume, just because of the races we all have coming up. So not as much intensity, just a little bit, but yeah, just a big focus on running long and far and eating a lot has been the biggest focus. And for me personally, like I run, or probably all three of us, like we do a lot of miles alone, like at home. And so to me, it's just been so much easier to hit this really big volume for me, whereas normally maybe I'm 20 miles less a week or 15 miles less. And yeah, I've just been in my head like, this is free miles, because like running with them too is so much fun. And even an easy run with Toni the other day goes by in like 5 minutes versus, ticking the clock, like 1 mile, 2 mile, 3.
Yeah, you mentioned it's 3 miles, but for the body, it's always, the same miles. So it doesn't come for free, obviously. But yeah, it's so cool. I think the power of the group, and sharing the efforts, the runs, and also like the time before and after each training is very important. We're obviously doing an individual sport, but when we carry each other and support each other, I think, is where some magic happens. So what does your typical training camp day look like? And then we'll go maybe into some more details.
Wake up at
What
whatever
time?
time really.
Right.
I think it's been around like 7:30. I mean, that's kind of when we all get out of bed
Pretty
ish.
good.
Yngvild's generally up before us, and she's been to the bakery before we've woken up. But then yeah, breakfast, slow breakfast, coffee, you know, mobility drills or whatever, get ready for a run, morning run, and I guess depending on how long that is, it'll take us to lunchtime, just after lunchtime. Lunch. I think that's been the best thing about this is we've actually spent like most of the meals we all do together, and that's been really fun.
Who's the best cook?
Don't.
I think I'm just the bossiest.
All right. I mean, yeah, I think good cooking is like, you know, you have to have some kind of skills, but then there is like organization because you have to get food and organize the kitchen and like think about the menu and everything.
Yeah, well, it's mostly Toni who comes up with the idea of what we're cooking.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes,
Yes.
let's do that.
Yeah, she's not bossy, asking her to tell
Yeah.
us what to do.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll take I think they're just being nice to me. No.
Obviously, I'm asking because like this is a critical part of a training camp. Like you're training a lot, so you should be eating a lot. And of course, yeah, cooking all that food is not necessarily simple at times, especially
Well,
when you're training, you know.
we
and
definitely
planning.
shared the load, so it's been really nice to actually all cook together. And I must say, we've done a very good job at making a dent in the giant shopping haul that we did at the start of the week.
God bless Whole Food.
Yeah, dangerous place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes we'll have afternoon sessions depending on what the morning session was, and then again, just like lots of focus on recovery and just spending time together when we're not running. I think that's been the biggest gift of this is like getting to actually spend time with, you know, Dani and Yngvild, because the year goes by so quickly and we don't often get the opportunity to spend time together. So obviously the running has been great, but like spending actually just quality time with him has been really cool.
Yeah. Can you put some numbers on your training, like your weekly mileage or hours of training? And are you doing any sort of strength or like intensity workouts besides mileage?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly. Like I've been just having focus on big volume, so I think I had like, yeah, it will be like maybe 200 kilometers or something like that.
All right. Wow.
All right.
All right.
Super. I mean,
But it
it's
just
a
adds
huge
up.
volume.
Yeah, it just adds up when you go on the course and you have to go a lot out and back to see the parts you want to see, which is accessible from one point where we're parking the car. And so it hasn't been too much intensity or strength this week, like it normally is at home. But that's just because I want to make the most out of being here and seeing the course and just using this week as a big volume week. Yeah, to be running as much as possible on the course. So it's a bit different than being home for sure.
Yeah. I think Toni and I are closer to 100 miles, maybe 90, 100 miles.
Yeah, me probably a little bit less.
Okay.
But I think because I do quite a lot of cross training usually, like I've needed that this week as well. So like some days I'll go and ride instead of running.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
just because of, you know, my body's not super used to all of this volume and I just want to be smart going into the season. It's still a long time. So
Of course.
yeah, I probably will get closer to like 140-ish Ks, 130-ish Ks, which is still a big week for me. So I'm happy. Still volume, still hours. So
yeah.
Good.
And like we keep saying week, but it's more like 10 days. I feel like is like a big push for 10 days for all of us, which is
that how long you're staying in Auburn? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks for being open and like putting numbers on what you just mentioned, because I think a lot of times people imagine like pro athletes, oh yeah, everyone is like running like a crazy amount of mileage, but it's not necessarily true. Like there are many different ways to like achieve a really good performance. So for Yngvild, it might look like running 200 kilometers a week right now, since she's also training for a 100-mile race. For Toni, that means 130, 140 kilometers and supplementing with a lot of cross training. So just a reminder that there are many ways to build fitness. I guess I haven't really asked you what are your goals for the season? I mean, we know for Yngvild, obviously the big goal is Western States. And then I think for the second half of the season, she's going to wait until Western States. What about you, Dani, after Canyons?
It's still in the air. I think I'm going to see how Canyons goes. But originally at the start of the year, I was thinking Zakama, but I might end up staying home in the States a little bit longer, just to have one less trip. Then I'll go back out for OCC, potentially I'll do Broken Arrow in between, but I don't know which race. But my big goal for the year is to just be able to race. Last year, I put a lot of emphasis on OCC and mentally getting sick and like feeling that loss of just being able to like race and compete was really hard for me a bit. And I raced a couple more times, but they weren't necessarily like the same atmosphere caliber. So this year I just want to like be able to race. That would be like the biggest gift for me, and have fun doing it, and not as much emphasis on OCC. Yeah.
Sweet. What about you, Toni?
So my first race of the year is probably going to be it is going to be Transvolcania. I would like to do something before, but it's creeping up real quick, and I don't think I'm actually going to fit in anything before then. So yeah, Transvolcania. And then for June, I'll be back in the States. I'll also be doing Broken Arrow, probably the 46K. And then pacing, which I'm including in my race calendar because I'm so excited about it. And it's probably going to be really intense. And then after that, there's some question marks, but I think the plan so far is to go to Eiger and do the 50K. An event at UTMB.
All right.
At the moment, I'm signed up for OCC, but I'm kind of waiting to see how I feel about Transvolcania, because if I really enjoy the distance, then maybe CCC is something that I'll consider. Really, I'm just looking for like motivation to train, and right now OCC is not lighting the fire.
All right.
Just because it would be my 4th year running the race, and after last year I've put a lot of pressure on myself to do better, and that's a really intimidating thing to do, and I'm not sure I can. So yeah, just for me OCC is like a big question mark at the moment. So yeah, after Eiger I'm pretty much like not really planning anything.
Okay. Yeah, maybe for people who don't know, Toni last year won OCC in a very dominant fashion. So she's just being humble. But yeah, obviously, I think it's a little bit the same for me. When I feel like I've already given my best to a race, I don't necessarily have the same motivation to go back and trying to improve. Of course, it's always possible to improve. Like, it's very unrealistic to think that everything goes right, even in the really good days. So there is still some small margins of improvement. But that doesn't really light the fire as trying a new experience and, challenging yourself with something different. And we only get, a few shots in a year at racing at our best, maybe 2 or 3 shots. So you have to choose your race wisely. I think it's something very important, and it's something that I've definitely struggled in the past, like trying to fit in too many races in my calendar. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but I'm not a fan of over racing right now. I've tried to be more intentional about the races that I do and how I plan my calendar. So yeah, just listening to you feels very, very valuable.
Yeah, I think it's a big trap a lot of us fall into is, you know, our sport is filled with so many wonderful races that we
Yeah.
want to do them all. And it's just not realistic, like to do so many races in 1 year, you just burn out so quickly. So yeah, trying to be more intentional is really difficult. But yeah, I think when you get to a certain level in sports, you just
Yeah.
have to.
Of course. If you had to pick a goal that is not necessarily, you know, a race, but it's more like process oriented for 2024, can be related to training, can be, you know, anything in your personal life, what would it be? Like, is there anything you've decided to work on this year? For example, personally related to training, I kind of want to get back my climbing strength. Like, I used to be a really good climber, and I felt that in the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't climbed as well as, you know, maybe in 2020, 2019. So besides doing some, for me, longer races like 50K and 50 milers, I want to try to be very competitive in short uphill races, or just on the climbs within the races that I'm gonna do.
When you said climbing, I thought you meant like bouldering.
More like running uphill. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't know.
I mean, for me, it's the heat training, adapting to the heat.
Mhm.
Which will be my little project this spring. It's for Western states, of course, but I think it will also be very valuable for other races. This is something I've been struggling with before, so it's very exciting to try to get better on that and to do it properly. So I have some plans, and yeah, I'm getting some help trying to improve that, which will be exciting.
What about you, Danny?
That's a good question. I think just more similar to you. Like, I think I'm a good climber in the sense I could climb. At least the past few years, I've worked on like really long climbs and sustaining like a really good effort and just being able to repeat that over a race. But I want to kind of bring back kind of like the punchiness, like being able to have different gears going up a climb. Whereas right now, I feel that it just kind of is a sustained sort of thing. And that's part of the reason why I did a roadblock again earlier this year and did a couple of half marathons, just to like remind myself that I still have good leg speed. And it's just learning to like readapt that into races and such. And part of the reason I'm doing canyons is I think I used to have that a bit more racing in the States because it's a lot of like constant short climbs. And it also like qualifies me, so it's like a double whammy. But that was part of the reason I chose this race too. So I'm excited to feel those short steep climbs that are kind of always going on.
Yeah. I think also what you mentioned before, changing the approach from last year and not putting so much pressure on just one race with the risk of, you know, getting sick or
Yeah.
whatever. I think is another thing that you're maybe working on, and another shift in your approach to this year.
Just being able to race is huge.
Yeah.
Like, we do all this process stuff, and yes, we love the journey, and yes, we love the day to day. But like, I know personally, like I love racing, and just like the idea of being on the bench, I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, being healthy is the number one thing, and it's not necessarily easy at our level, because we're pushing ourselves a lot, so it's never to be taken for granted.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for me, it's like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I feel like I'm good at doing like short, intense stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm bad at doing like, I think my longest training run was the one we did the other day. Like, I don't train long and I don't train huge hours, but I'm starting to do these longer races now where you're going to be out there for potentially, 8, 9, 10 plus hours. And I've never done that. So I think this year for me, the goal is to do more like adventures, just to get used to being out in the conditions and like learning to adapt with whatever comes. So yeah, there's a couple of routes that myself and my partner like plotted out, and we'd be keen to give a go like over a couple of days or in one push. Yeah, just really challenging my body to go where it's never really gone before, just to see how it reacts. I think I'm super curious about what happens after 6 hours because I've never really gone longer than that. So yeah, I think it's my goal to see, to go far and see how, go long and see how it feels.
Yeah, interesting. Do you all work with a coach, or is only one of you self-coached?
I'm kind of self-coached. I've got like a mentor who he was my coach, and now we've kind of like, I plan my days and he kind of just checks in on me to make sure I'm not doing anything stupid.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I have a coach.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Toni, you're also a coach, right?
Yeah.
How's that
Yeah.
side of your athletic life going?
Good. I really enjoy it. It gives me a lot of perspective because I think sometimes you can get caught up in big volume, big workouts, big days out, and dealing with people who are just getting into the sport and are like super psyched when they can run consistently for 5 to 10 Ks. Like, that's really rewarding, and it really gives me that like opposite end of the spectrum where you're like, wow, we all start somewhere. So yeah, I really love it. You get so invested in people's lives and people's journeys, and I really, really enjoy that part of it. It's so much more than putting a couple workouts down on a piece of paper. It's connecting and engaging and finding out what motivates them, which is really special. I love being part of that journey.
Great. And Dani, what are you doing besides running? I mean, of course, you're the host of the Sabah podcast, which I hope our listener always follow. What else are you up to in your normal life?
Yeah, I was in the tech industry until recently last year. I quit in July. And so yeah, just was full-time, or I am full-time on running and the podcasts and a newsletter. So yeah, just kind of taking that midlife sabbatical, even though this is very exhausting work as well.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I think the biggest thing I've noticed with it is that I'm actually more tired than I thought I would be. Like initially I had a surge of energy, quitting my job and just having the extra hours to sleep. But then I soon realized that I could actually push my body more because I was rested. And I was just back where I'm still just more tired. But yeah, just going all in right now. I think it's a good time in my life to do that. And I'm happy I that career path, but yeah, all focused on that. Yeah.
What about you, Yngvild? I think you finished medical school not too long ago. Right?
Yeah, I finished med school
1st of March.
2 years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I've been working in the hospital as a medical doctor until 1st of March. Took a break 1st of March to focus more on my running season. So plan is to go back to work in the fall to finish my job in where I live now. But yeah, I really enjoy working in a hospital, and I like this other side of me as well. And of course, I like the combination of both working and running, but it's been rough these last couple of weeks, especially with the recovery and the lack of sleep, and always always trying to squeeze in good training sessions. And using the time I'm off from work to do longer training sessions, which makes me like I'm kind of never resting actually.
Exactly. Yeah. In the time when you should rest, you're actually getting really tired because you're running a lot. So
when I'm from work, I could have my quality sessions and my longer sessions. But now I have time to sleep and just laying on the couch in my reboots and hanging out with these girls. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it's still like Dani said, it's when you're taking more time to running, you can actually do more of the work that requires on the side, like active recovery and focusing on stuff like that. So it's not like it's easier, it's still work, but it's different.
Yeah. I can understand and I can relate. Speaking about your build up for this season and your winter training, from what I was able to see on social media and for what I was able to follow, I think you all three had different build-ups this winter, and I think it's really cool right now that it's all coming together in one single training camp. For example, Dani, you chose to focus on speed and like a lot of road running. You ran a 1:10 half marathon. Can you spend a few words on how you structured your training in the early months of 2024? And also, how much confidence does your half marathon result give you? Like, where does this performance put you ahead of the trail season?
Yeah, I mostly focused on just quality over quantity, just really focusing on getting the workouts done and as fast and as close to the splits my coach would tell me. And then all the rest of the days were pretty much just like fill in cross training, like go snowboarding, maybe go cross country skiing, just like take the mind off, because last winter that was a really hard winter for me. It was a historic winter where I lived, and I came out just so burnt out, and I wanted to jump into trail racing, but I needed like a month and a half to like really recover from how emotionally drained I was. So this winter the goal was to do the opposite, to come out feeling like fresh and hungry and stuff like that. And we put the half marathons in there just to kind of like figure out where I maybe was going to be, with the goal of hopefully PRing. Last year I ran just under 113, 112.51. And yeah, honestly, the 110 was a bit surprising to me. It wasn't to my coach, but it was to me, because on the day I was aiming for 111.30, just pacing wise, but my last 10K, I PR'd by like 30 seconds or more than that in my 10K. And I just had so much energy. It was really cool. And I'll never forget like turning onto the street and seeing like 110 on the clock and just pushing as hard as I could to break 111. But yeah, the splits in that race kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I feel that when you have a really big performance that maybe was even higher than your own expectations, you like, it takes a little longer for it to sink in. Like, did I just do that? But yeah, I think for me, I honestly need to work on it giving me more confidence right now. I mean, it is a good time. So yeah, I think just setting my goals higher is the big challenge I'm making for myself right now. Yeah.
Sweet. Yngvild, you probably spent most of the winter skiing, I guess, coming from Norway. How's the transition to running been, and how was the training with the skis?
Well, actually, I've like combined running and skiing this winter, so I've done a lot of running, mostly running on the road, which is easier in the mornings before work and after. And also because of the conditions with a lot of snow, it's been hard to find trails. So I've been using skis for like my volume training. Been doing a lot of cool skiing trips and some really fun adventures with on skis or with crampons. So that's been really fun. And I know going back home that it will still be possible to do some cool skiing trips. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, been trying to combine.
Cool. And Toni, for you, I think it was a mix of different things, different cross-training activities, including skiing, cross-country skiing, running, riding, cooking.
Yeah, wow. To be honest, this was the first year that I've had so many activities that I could do. I mean, last year it was my first winter, so it was the first year that I was testing out skiing. And I did a little bit of cross-country skating, but not very much. So this year, you know, having access to cross-country skating, ski touring, cycling, running, I almost got overwhelmed. So I ended up doing a lot of volume, but I just think it was all very like a bit wishy-washy. So I'm not sure how my winter training's translated yet. I think, you know, transitioning back into a bit more running has been more challenging this year than last year. Just because I did do less running because I had so many other things to do. So yeah, definitely took a lot of learnings away from this winter. I think next year I need to be more focused on having running more consistent and having I don't know, I need to structure my life a little different next year.
Right.
Super
So
fun, like,
so it
love-
wasn't totally an intentional decision to cross-train as much and maybe
no,
put running on the side. It
yeah,
was more forced like by the conditions.
yeah. I think that was it. Like we didn't have great skiing conditions, so I ended up cycling a lot because the trails were also just like icy or super slushy, which wasn't super fun to run in. So I ended up doing a lot of cycling. And then when the conditions were good, we were obviously outside skiing, which meant running kind of always took the back seat because there was always something better to do. So yeah, I think next year I need to think about how to structure that a bit more smartly. Oh gosh, a bit better. But yeah, I don't regret anything I did this year. I had a lot of fun with the skiing. I had some incredible skating experiences. So like I'm super happy with my winter training. I just think it's my transition to running has been more challenging because of how many things I was doing.
Yeah, of course.
I was gonna say it's so interesting because like coming from a track background, like winter was always super strength based, like I don't know, just like you're building for the track season. And that's part of the reason why like I love this sport because there's just so many things like approaches you can take and it's gonna translate over. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, it's been a little bit the same for me, like more cross training than running in December and January. I had fun doing some cross country races, but it's definitely been less running and more cross training than in other years. And I think so far it's paid off because first of all, I didn't get injured, so that's always the number one goal, I guess, being happy, healthy, and running. And then I feel like pretty good, pretty strong. So first race of the season at Chacanat went great. I will see what I can do at Lake Sonoma, but I think I was able to learn something valuable from this winter and the training that I did.
Yeah, I think the beauty of cross training is that it does, when you do start running again, like that fire is like you're so motivated and
Yeah.
excited for the running season again. Like when I lived in Cape Town, I just found I was running, you know, I was in Europe for summer and then back in Cape Town for summer. So I was running the whole year. And for like 4 years, that's all I did. And I just got to the end of the last year and I was like, wow, I'm just really mentally exhausted. Like I don't have any desire to train. So that's why I did my first winter, because I was like, I really just want some other stimulus because this is exhausting. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from cross training in winter is just how motivated you come back into the season, like mentally rested, but just so much drive to
And then I think it's also fun to like be a beginner, like do something that you're not necessarily very good at, like running, because obviously in running you're really good. So you are at a really high level, but you may not be as good with skis or with the bike, for example. So you learn a lot, you improve a lot quicker than in running, and it's fun to see the results. It's fun to challenge yourself and try different things. And I think to keep a wide spectrum of stimuli and variety in training is always important, especially far away from the competitions, like when you're not in the pre-competition phase of your training, where you need to be, of course, very specific. The big volume that you can do with cross training, the strength, also the intensity, I think can be very valuable.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just so fun to be out there in the mountains, even if it's like if we are running or skiing. Obviously, the mountains in Norway are not accessible by running in the winter. So then it's perfect to just do a skiing tour and to access the mountain that way and to get some new adventures. And it's like Toni said, when you do longer races, it's nice to know that you can be out for a couple of hours. When you go skiing, the hours pass so quickly, you don't even realize how many hours you're out there, because it's just so fun being out there, which is something I like, to make training as fun as possible and to do something you enjoy, something something you like.
I think also just like at least for me, like with snowboarding, I have a lot of friends that I can do that with that I can't run with.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'll be running by myself for months to come now. But like in the winter, I can hang out with more of my friends, and yeah, I think that's nice too.
Back to solo running after this.
Yeah.
Cool. Changing topic. You mentioned that you went to the Adidas HQ in Germany. And I also saw on Instagram a bunch of stories and posts with photos of you like doing all kinds of tests, wearing sensors and metabolic machines and pipes and all sort of things. What were you measuring? Like, can you share any, not necessarily insight, but just what were you doing, and how is it gonna help your training maybe?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Yeah, I think, well, first off, I think it's just a testament to how invested Terrex is in the entire team.
Yeah.
Because for me, one of the most powerful things was that our entire team was there getting these tests. It wasn't just like a selected handful. It was like anyone who's on the team, you come and join, and we'll give you these resources. But the tests themselves were a VO2 max test, running uphill, not the flat version, lactate testing. They did body scans for measurements and stuff, echography, so checking the heart, is that right? They did some heat testing, and what am I missing? Force plate testing. But basically all of the outputs were for us individually, like they weren't shared anywhere else. It's not like they had like a screen and was like, here's everyone's results. They made like a very nice pamphlet for us at the end. And then it's also to inform product innovation, and then just a couple things specific for certain races that people who are doing those races.
And yeah, it was super interesting. Like for the lactate testing, like we had all these little markers which measured like our biomechanics, which is really interesting. You know, some of the athletes in our team are coming back from injury, so for them to see potentially where their body is maybe not moving optimally, you know, it informs then how they can better their strength training, or like target those areas to improve mobility, strengthen a certain, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of their calves is lacking, or, you know, whatever. So it's super valuable information, I think. Yeah.
It's kind of
And
like the individual to do with it what they want, sort of thing. Yeah.
And do you feel like you have a good voice with the product development and maybe with the performance team in Adidas?
Yeah, I think you know, part of what we did in her, so it was it was a really busy time. Like our days were super full. But it was because we were doing things like product testing and product innovation with the like elite athlete development team. So they were there with all of the products and we were talking through them. And I think they really do want to hear our voices. Like for them, that's really important. So yeah, I definitely feel like they're listening to us and taking our advices, even when sometimes I think we're all a bit confused. And yeah, again, with all the testing that we did, you know, they take that information and then they optimize products for us. So I think the whole experience was really valuable.
Cool. Dani, you wrote that since Adidas Terrex entered the trail space, it's been setting a new standard for what makes a team a team. Can you just share in what ways and how do you feel about being part of the Adidas Terrex team?
It's incredible. It truly is. Like Rob, who is the head of our team, he just really has created an environment where everyone feels like they have a seat at the table. And if they have something they want to share or have an opinion, like he's all ears and wanting to hear that. And while they create the environment, he and the Terex team have done an incredible job, in my opinion, of selecting athletes that fit really well together. And so even amongst the athletes, like if an athlete has an idea, like everyone is nearly keen to be like, yeah, let's do that, or let's just try it. Whereas maybe in some other teams, they'd be like, no, that's dumb. Like, why would we do that? So I think, yeah, they've just done a really exceptional job. And, you know, for me, previously having not been on the team, I felt as though I already saw that, and the team really operating as one together, you know, being there when their teammates finish, etc. And then now being there, you know, as my teammates are finishing, it truly is just like, you know, you're there for the first person that finishes and you're there for the last person that finishes. And like no one is above taking out the trash is like something that I tell a lot of people. It's like there's no hierarchy in the team based on like your results. It's just everyone is a human and their word means something, which I really appreciate.
Great. Maybe going towards the end of our conversation, I think this will be a fun one. If you could mention one thing that you like and you don't like about each other, what would it be?
Oh, that's really hard.
I mean, you've been together for a few days. You've obviously got to know each other better. Maybe there are some like little things that you discovered about your
I feel
friends
like
that.
the other one. Dani eats really slowly.
All right.
Like really slowly. Yngvild and I will have eaten our first plate and probably had seconds before Dani's finished her first. That's probably the only thing.
It's an ongoing problem.
Well, there is one thing I love about you is that since we got here, I never made a cup of coffee to myself. You always serve me with coffee, and it's really tasty coffee. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What type of coffee do you make?
We've got a Chemex here. The Airbnb that we're staying in has a Chemex, which I think deserves a 5 stars just for that reason. So yeah, morning Chemex for everyone.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love that I can be completely myself, and just sometimes I'll like say things just to like test the room, and they still entertain my thoughts, and I just love that they go along with it. Because sometimes it gets real dark. And they're entertained by it in some capacity. And if they're not, they pretend like they are. I appreciate that. And yeah, to me, like when I'm comfortable, I feel just anyone you can dance with and they jam out with you is just
Oh yeah, I love your videos.
that to me is just so important that people don't take themselves too seriously. And that's these two in a nutshell. So I really love that about them. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I don't know if you have a second session today, but I'm about to go for another run. Hopefully it's gonna stop raining. But yeah, it's been fun to catch up and see you.
You as
Yeah.
well.
Thanks so much, and good
Of
luck in
course.
your race. I'm excited to follow along.
Yeah, we'll see each other hopefully soon somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
Good luck
All
with the
right.
display run. Hopefully we don't get rained on too.
Thanks.
Cool. Chat soon.
Bye.
Bye.